First seen in arcades in 1987 and later sort of ported to the NES in 1988, we have Double Dragon, one of the early entries into the beat-em-up genre. One of the features, in fact probably the key feature, that had Double Dragon standing out from the crowd in the arcade was the fact that it had two-player cooperative gameplay. And by this I mean that two players could play simultaneously, both on the screen, both controlling their own character. And that was pretty unique for the time in 1987. But on this Nintendo port, we have a slight problem. This slight problem is the fact that there is no cooperative play. If you choose the two-player mode, you have a Super Mario Bros. Type gameplay format where you alternate, and you both alternate with the same character. So that was a radical change from the arcade version, and frankly the main reason to play the arcade version was to play with a friend at the same time. To accommodate this change, they actually changed the game plot a little bit, and in the original arcade there was a gang leader named Willie who captured your girl, and what was interesting about that was when you got to the end of the whole game and defeated Willie, if you're playing the two-person co-op mode, the two players playing would actually battle each other to see who the ultimate winner was. This scenario is obviously eliminated from the NES version of the game because there is no co-op mode. Another subtle difference you may notice when you play the NES version is the fact that only two enemies can be seen on the screen at a time. And those two enemies have to be the same character. They can't have two different enemies on the screen at the same time. And that's due to a technical limitation with the NES hardware itself. Now let's move on to the actual gameplay. You can punch, kick, and jump in this game and do different specific punches, kicks, and jumps. But you need to build experience first to be able to do those different kinds of moves. And you'll see hearts on the bottom of the screen below your energy bar, and those hearts determine your experience level. So the more hearts you have, the more different moves you can do. You use your A and B buttons to punch and kick, and if you wish to jump, you have to hit your A and B button at the same time, which was kind of unique for the NES. Not a whole lot of games use that feature where it was a totally different button function if you hit them both at the same time. Now there are various weapons you can pick up off of enemies that have you've knocked over or knocked out, and they range from, you know, baseball bats to cardboard boxes to giant drums, knives, just about anything, you name it. Which is always good to pick up a weapon. You know, it does a lot more damage, makes the game a little more fun when you beat somebody with a bat as opposed to your bare fist. But also due to the limitations of the NES, the weapon disappears when you move on to the next stage, and so that kind of sucks. But you know, what can you do? Just a limitation that they haven't been able to overcome when this game was released. Now, when I first introduced this game, I said it was a sort of port from an arcade game, and what I mean by that is there's a lot that's changed. Some of the main features have changed, like the cooperative gameplay, and these stages have been revamped a bit. They're not, identical to the arcade game stages, and they weren't really trying to be identical to the arcade game stages. They tried to retain some level of familiarity with the arcade, but they were kind of going for a new game with the same kind of basic features, because they knew they couldn't do an exact port on the NES just due to the limitations. So if you're looking for an exact replica of the arcade game, the NES version is not it. And if that's what you're looking for in a game, then I wouldn't pick up this game, because it certainly isn't the arcade game. But this game is playable. I mean, it's not horrific, even though it's radically changed from its arcade counterpart. It's still an interesting game to play. And a little side note, if my voice sounds slightly different, it's because halfway through making this video review of Double Dragon, my microphone broke. So I was forced to finish the video using the built-in microphone on my computer, which isn't the greatest microphone in the world. And my one that broke wasn't the greatest either, but it was better than the one that was built in. So I'm going to have to finish this video with my built-in mic. So like I said, my apologies for that little technical difficulty. Anyhow, on with the review. Now you're looking at stage 3, which they've changed a bit from the arcade to make the game a little more enjoyable, because it was so different from the arcade to begin with. So they gave it a little bit of a platformer element to it, with some jumping areas and things like that. So yeah, they tried to keep your attention a little bit, which is, points for trying. And coming up here are my two favorite bosses. Their names are Abobo. Well, there's two of them, so I guess they're Abobos. But yeah, they are big and ugly, but they're fun to fight. So Double Dragon isn't. I don't think it's a very good Nintendo game. It's okay. It's playable, but it doesn't hold your attention that long. The arcade version's much better, especially if you're like 14. I personally wouldn't go out of my way to pick up Double Dragon, and I didn't go out of my way to pick up Double Dragon. I just had it laying around, but I wouldn't pay more than $2 for it. Thank you for joining me. I'm your host Dommy for Classic Games Revisited. Until next time.